it's going to be kind of another... I just can't do intros. I can't. I'm terrible at intros. Just awful, in fact, at intros. What's up, guys? It's the Pittsburgh Picker, and today we are going to go over something that you've seen us sell quite a bit of in the last month or so, and that is records. You've seen us picking up quite a bit of records, and you've seen us selling quite a bit of records, and that's because people are collecting them again. And not just people that grew up with them, like myself. I did grow up with them. My early years are right at the tail end of vinyl, going into cassettes. And then eventually into CDs. The majority of my music collection came in the form of CDs and cassettes. However, when I was younger, my mom had records. There were still plenty of record stores around. I remember buying records when I was very young. And in the last couple years, I'd say maybe the last 7 to 8 years, people have started really collecting them again. Do I have an answer to why? No, I don't. I do believe, though, that it has to do with tangible music and being able to own tangible music. And I'm not going to get into a big, long explanation on why I believe there's nostalgia behind this. Although that being one of the reasons, there is certainly nostalgia. But I feel like the people that grew up with records are not the only people collecting them. There are people that are younger than myself that are enjoying records. A buddy of mine's daughter, who is 18, is getting into vinyl. So it certainly is something that people are starting to collect again, and it is making a pretty big boom in the market. In fact, last year they released some statistics, and vinyl outsold CDs last year. And that largely because the majority of people are getting their music digitally from your phone. So any tangible music is going to be outsold by that, and then in turn, records jumped over CDs. Now, having said that, they do account for a very good percentage of music sales lately. So people are buying them, and it is if you've been on the edge of getting into vinyl and you're thinking, okay, I see the money in that, and I'm thinking I should go and start buying them and selling them. I just don't know what I'm looking for. This is the video for you, and I'm going to go through kind of the beginner's guide to getting into selling vinyl. After this video is over, you should have enough knowledge to be able to go out and look and source vinyl. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to be an expert. I'm not even an expert, and I've been collecting it for a couple years now. My fiance has been collecting it longer than I have, and she's not an expert. Having said that, we do know a lot about what we're talking about. We do know enough to be dangerous and enough to be able to resell things that we've bought. And I'll go over some examples. The first thing I want to let you know is that if you go to a thrift store, or you go to a record store, or you go to like a secondhand store of any sort and you see records, the first lesson I can tell you is that anything that you don't recognize, being it, some sort of big band record or some kind of, some artist that you just don't know, you're going to want to steer clear of them. That's not saying that some of them aren't worth money. It's probably at this point in your selling career or your selling adventure of vinyl, it's probably not a good idea to step into that realm. Also, there was a lot of records made in the 1950s, 1960s for the generation before that. So people that grew up in the 30s and 40s were buying records in the 50s and 60s, and that was the music prior to rock and roll, prior to all the big music boom in the United States. There's a lot of that out there, and those really aren't worth a lot of money. It's unfortunate because the music's great, but they're just not worth a lot of money. A lot of those people have since passed or are old enough that they just don't want to hang on to a record collection, so you do see a lot of that in your thrift stores. What are you looking for, though? Well, what you're looking for is commonly known music, or music that is used in other media. So, like, a good example of that is The Who. The Who is used in quite a bit of television. CSI Miami, their intro is a Who song. So people do want to own the music by The Who. Another good example of that is Fleetwood Mac. We had that TikTok video, the guy drinking cranberry juice and singing a Fleetwood Mac song. And Fleetwood Mac is impossible to find. Even at record stores. We were at a record store over the last weekend and there was no Fleetwood Mac albums. So that's what you're looking for. You're looking for artists that people would want to collect, or that people are hearing their music for maybe the first time in their life and they're going, who's that? No, example, that was kind of a funny joke because I'm holding a Who record, but it does work that way. And so you do want to try and look for artists like that. Now, there is a caveat to that. And the caveat to that is there are popular artists out there that sold millions of records. And by when I say millions of records, I don't just mean a lot of people say that and use that term as being albums sold. I mean someone who physically sold millions of records. This guy being one of them. Billy Joel sold a lot of records in his time, and there's a lot of them out there. So, is he worth a buy? Yes, at the right price. If you're getting them very, very cheap, he's certainly worth grabbing. If you're getting them at $5 to $7, you're probably going to want to pass on it because there's a lot of them and they're not selling for large enough profits. So when the easiest thing I can tell you to do when getting into this is make sure to look them up. Some of them still have the barcode scanners on. This is a relatively new Billy Joel album, 1986. So some of them still have the barcodes on them. This one in particular does also. This one does not. So you're going to run into records that were produced pre-barcodes, and you won't be able to find them. But it's pretty easy to look up. Most of the albums say the name of the artist and the name of the album here. If they don't say it here, chances are good it's on the spine. If it's not on the spine, it's on the back or in a fold-out or somewhere you'll be able to find what the name of the album is. And look it up. eBay solds are normally pretty good for that. Just like anything else you sell on eBay, you're going to look it up, you're going to see what it's selling for, and so forth. So definitely do that. Now, this is where it gets a little tricky. And where it gets a little tricky is that this is a tangible media. And more so than it being a tangible media, just like CDs, they can get damaged. Records are a little bit more durable than CDs, but not by much. Where CDs, you shouldn't be touching the actual media. With records, you can. Should you? No. But you can. Records are also very susceptible to dust. You can actually see there's a little dust on this record. And dust is not a big deal when buying a record, but it can get caked onto here, so you do want to look out for that. Now, something you definitely want to be on the lookout for, and I don't know if my camera is picking this up, is scratches. This record is in great shape, and there is no real scratches or scuffs on it, but you definitely want to look for that. You want to look for if the vinyl's in good shape. If there's a lot of scratching on it, then you're probably going to want to pass on it. People that buy records are really not concerned too much with dust and debris as much as they are concerned with scratches. If the record's scratched, or if it's unplayable, or if it skips, that's a tremendous problem. And if a record is scratched, chances are good it's going to skip, and that is probably one of the worst sounds you could ever hear. For those of you that don't know, the way a record works is you would put it on the record player or the platter, and then there's actually a needle that you set at the beginning of the record's spinning, and it actually goes through the grooves. So if there's a scratch in one of those grooves, it's either going to catch that scratch and move, or it's going to catch that scratch and jump. And then that was what's causing a skip. So that's something you definitely want to look out for. So let's say you found this Billy Joel record. The first thing you're going to want to do is obviously look up and see if it's worth buying. Second thing you're going to want to do is inspect the vinyl. And if it's in good shape, if it looks like it's relatively free of scratching, very subtle scratches can be passable. If they're deep scratches, that's a big problem. If there's a lot of very subtle scratches, like a ton of them, same like a CD. If you see a lot of scratches in a CD, chances are good it's going to have some playing issues. Records are not that much different. So that's something to be on the lookout for, just basically when you're going to buy records. All right, and another thing to note is that records were made in a time where we weren't nearly as efficient as shipping things all over the world, or all over the country for that matter. So you did get a lot of different pressings, and by pressings I mean different makes of the same record. This Steely Dan record, for an example, is one of the original pressings of this record. Now, that original pressing can have multiple different looks to it. You can see by the middle of this record that this was copyrighted in 1977. There's other versions of this record that this label in the middle will be completely different. That can and cannot have some impact on the value of this record. For this one, they're all pretty much the same. Unless it's a new one, a very, very new one, it's probably not going to change the value of this. However, if you're looking at, like, a good example of this would be some Beatles records. The original pressings of some Beatles records are worth a ton of money. Let me put this away real quick. And you've got to know what you're looking for. I'm not going to get too deep into this. This is that part of that I was talking about in the beginning, that you can really get into, like, some major research when it comes to certain records, and you could find, different pressing dates, different label dates, different all kinds of things that is just way too much to go into this video. So for the purpose of this video, we're just going to leave it at that, and then go on to another version of that. This record is actually a record that was produced in England. So this record is going to have a lot more value here than it would in the UK, because in the UK there's a lot of these. Here there's not. This record was an import. It says right there, import, and it also says on the back that it was made in England. So that's something to look out for, that there are various records that could have been imported from another country. Japan is still making records to this day, and has been over the last, I don't know, ever since records were really introduced in Japan. They've continued on. There's actually still a Tower Records in Japan. They've been collecting vinyl all along, and they really never stopped. Whereas records in the United States died out when the invention of the CD and the MP3 player kind of killed the record game here in the United States. Japan still kept it going, and there are Japanese pressings of records. You could find that exact Steely Dan album that's Japanese pressed, and it's probably worth a little more money in the States. So be on the lookout for stuff like that. I don't want to get too in depth on it. This is supposed to be a big beginner's guide, and I'm just kind of nerding out on records here. So something else to look out for. Compilation records do sell rather well. You do want to make sure that they are popular artists. There's a lot of record compilations out there that are covers of music. There are a lot that are just, they're popular artists but not popular songs. So they do sell relatively well. Originals, again, sell relatively well. Greatest hits always sell relatively well. Something else that sells relatively well is singles. Just like cassettes, just like CDs, they did make record singles. They aren't as popular as full albums, but there's a market for them. There are people that collect singles. And it's the same as a CD or cassette tape. There's one song on the one side, one song on the other side. Sometimes there's two songs on one side. Sometimes there's the original and then a bunch of remixes. It can really go either way. The nice thing about these is you can find these normally pretty cheap. Normally they're between $1 and $3. And you probably get $6 to $10 for the single. So something to look out for is singles, especially if it's a popular artist. This is Prince. It's a popular single. It's going to sell. So, and then something else to look out for, but only during this certain time of year, and that is Christmas records. There's a lot of these. You're going to find a ton of Christmas records. Every time I go to a thrift store, I can find Christmas records. I almost guarantee it. If I walked into a thrift store right now, I'd find 10 Christmas records. Well, maybe not right now, because it is getting close to Christmas time. But Christmas records, there's a lot of them. They don't always sell. This time of year, they sell. We just sold this, actually. So if you do buy Christmas records, plan on hanging on to them, because you're probably not going to sell them until around now. Because people are getting ready for the holidays. They're thinking, I need Christmas music, and I love records, and I want to play the music on my record player. They're going to buy Christmas records. And that's about it for the what to buy section of this, what to buy, what to look out for section of this video. The next thing I'm going to show you, or that we're going to go over first, and then I'm going to kind of show you, is how to ship these. Because if you're going to get into this and you're going to buy records, it's great that you know what to look for. But if you don't ship them properly and they get damaged in transit, people are going to get angry, and you're going to lose money. You know, if you're like us and you have an eBay store and you have to take free returns because we do qualify for certain things on eBay, then if something gets cracked or something gets broken or gets water damage or something to that effect, chances are good you're going to be on the hook for it. Something to note about records is that you can ship them media mail. They're not heavy. They are a little big, but they're not heavy. So they're typically going to go out the 1 pound media mail rate, you know, so they are relatively inexpensive to ship, but they are fragile. These can break very easily. So my recommendation is, if you're new, they do sell record mailers, and they are basically just a piece of cardboard that you can fold together and put the record in, and it will keep it safe. My recommendation to you guys is to get some poly bags. They're just plastic mailing bags, and put them in that. With the media mailers, I put them in the media mailer, I tape them up, I put the media mailer in the poly bag and ship them out that way. For a couple reasons. Cardboard is not the best at repelling water. And if, you know, the mailman just leaves it on somebody's porch, there's a big rainstorm, the record gets soaked, the cover gets all water damaged, people are going to be angry. So that's really why we do that. Can you make your own mailers? Yes, and we do when we're out of the record mailers. And here's one. It's just the side of a big moving box. And all we do is we put the record in here, we fold it up, we tape it, and then we drop it in a poly bag, and that's it. These moving boxes are fairly rigid. You want something that's not going to bend and flex, and this won't. It's fairly rigid, and it's a good sturdy cardboard, so it's not going to bend and flex too much. With really, really valuable records, if you want to pad them, you can. They're not too susceptible to that kind of thing. The real major thing is you want to invest in some fragile stickers and some do not bend stickers. Do not bend is great. I've actually had people send us messages after they've purchased a record from us asking us to put something like that on there, and we obviously say we do all the time. Just something we know that people, sometimes mail carriers just get careless. They jam things in mailboxes and things can get broken. So you always want to play it safe. Are you going to get broken ones? Yeah, absolutely. Are you going to get damaged ones? You certainly are. Does it happen frequently? No, it doesn't. If you package it correctly and you properly label it, you really should be okay. So, all right, and that's about it. I hope this video was informative to you guys. I hope that if you were looking to get into selling something different, that maybe this gave you an idea of what to sell and how to sell it. And if this was something that you were on the fence about, I hope this video pushed you over, and now you're going to go out and make thousands of dollars off of selling records. If you like this video, though, please consider giving it a thumbs up. If you like videos like this, or you like watching thrift store videos where we go to thrift stores, or even Goodwill bins videos and Goodwill outlet stores where we just dig through piles and piles of junk, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. The notification bell will let you know whenever I upload new videos. And that's about it. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.
Good day, sir.